Welcome back to the Colorblind Architect Podcast. I'm your host, David, and today we're going to talk about Gina. Okay, actually it's China, but you know, everybody has that joke about Donald Trump saying Gina instead of China, and you know, it's kind of fun. But so here's the reason why I want to talk about it. This is an important campaign issue for this election that's coming up. And interesting thing that just kind of sparked my curiosity when I saw it in the news today was a news story that said something to the effect of, apparently Xi Jinping, the premier of China, he is trying to claim that Vladivostok is supposed to be Chinese, not Russian. Okay, now for those of you who don't understand geography, if you have not ever looked this up, I encourage you to look at a globe, or even better, look on Google Earth, look it up, figure out where it is. If you look very closely at Vladivostok, Russia, it is on the border with North Korea. And you might be wondering, huh? Russia? North Korea? Yeah, they border each other. Now, here's the interesting thing about Vladivostok. It is a port city on the Pacific Ocean, obviously within a harbor, so it's well protected, but it is one of the few port cities that Russia has. Now, this, you might think, why is that important, Dave? Okay, let me explain. So, Russia, as you know, is a very, very cold place. Most of Russia is tundra. It's frozen over, like much of the year. Siberia is a very, very cold place, right? So much of the northern coast, most of the coastline of Russia is on the Arctic Ocean. So this coastline is largely unusable because while you might be able to navigate the waters during the summertime, if you want to have a port city, you really want to be able to use it year-round, right? You want to be able to access the goods and services via shipping lanes. It's really hard to do that in the Arctic Ocean because during the wintertime it obviously freezes over. So that's where places like Vladivostok work into the strategy, the national strategy of Russia, in order to maintain their power and their economic well-being. So Vladivostok is also the eastern terminus of the Trans-Siberian Railroad, which is the longest railroad on the planet, and it is a key transportation corridor for the Russian nation. Now, enter in Xi Jinping, premier of China. He thinks that Vladivostok should be China's. Why? Well, because he also thinks that that region of Manchurian Russia, and I say Manchurian Russia as in it's in the Manchurian region, but it is part of Russia, and has been actually since the days of Ivan the Terrible, or Peter the Great, I think. But the point is, it's something that the Chinese have never really gotten over. It's one of those ancient things that, that was at one time part of China. So China wants it back. So here's why I bring this up. What the heck is Xi Jinping thinking? You're going to sit there and talk about, that's actually ours, to Russia, a country with quite possibly the second most powerful military in the world. And granted, it's obviously not as strong as it was in the days of the Soviet Empire, but it's still a very, very strong military. And I would venture a guess that it's a stronger military than China, unless China has delusions of grandeur and they think that their military, with their sub-rate poor quality construction weapons is gonna do as well as Russia's, which, I mean, to their credit, the Russians are really good at two things. Well, actually, a lot of other things too, but in terms of manufacturing, the two things that Russia is really, really good at: making weapons and making rockets. Obviously, they're really good at rockets because, after all, American astronauts have been using the Russian Soyuz rockets flying out of Kazakhstan for about 12 years now, since the space shuttle was retired. So, you know, you have to give them props. The Russians are really, really good at space exploration and at rocket construction. They're also really good at weapons. They make great tanks and great jet airplanes, and you know, they're not as good as the American ones, but they're still really good that they sell them to countries all over the planet. That's actually a large source of their income as a nation, is selling weapons all over the world. Now, in comes China. Yeah, they're manufacturing their own weapons, but actually most of the weapons that China has for their military that actually work are the ones that are manufactured in Russia. Now, granted, China's made some huge headways in improving their quality, but like, just take, for example, their 3 aircraft carriers. Their aircraft carriers suck. I mean, we could take out China's whole navy in an afternoon. Now, do I want us to get into a war and have to do that? No, of course not. But I'm pretty sure Russia's navy could also take out China's navy pretty easily. So why is Xi Jinping saber-rattling with Russia? Not very smart. They're also saber-rattling with South Korea, with Taiwan, with the Philippines, with India, with Japan. It's almost like China is asking to get its ass kicked. I don't know what's going on. Do they know something that we don't know? Do they think that their military is strong enough to take an ass kicking? Because realistically, they would get beat in a long-term struggle because the whole world would go after them. Now, here's the key. What is China thinking? Well, here's my theory. My theory is that Xi Jinping thinks that their military is strong enough now that it is safe to saber rattle to the point of trying to provoke somebody else to attack China. I think their hope is to do just enough poking and prodding and, you know, stop touching me type stuff, right? You know, like how, like, a little sibling will just keep poking you until you finally lash out and hit them, and then your parents come after you. So I think that's what China's trying to do. I think they're trying to provoke the ire and the military attack of another country so as to start a war that will justify them in taking over places that they feel are theirs, but that they know very well if they tried to do it right now, they would be under global condemnation, and all the militaries of the world would join in to come defend, let's just say, this imaginary place that China might attack would be, I don't know, let's call it like the Republic of China, but we all know that that doesn't exist, right? No, so basically we all know what it is. It's Taiwan. China has been jonesing to take over Taiwan since Chiang Kai-shek fled there with the nationalists back in the 40s, okay? Here's the thing about communists. Like most idiots, they hold grudges like crazy. They can't forgive. And they feel like they need to own the entirety of historical China. Now, what exactly is historical China? I don't know. But I think that is what they're trying to do. I think they're trying to make a justifiable attempt on Taiwan. Now, I think it's stupid. I mean, had China just kept at peace and not been saber-rattling, then I think Taiwan would have eventually said, oh, well, seems like China's government's really softened and they've become a lot, and eventually they would have just said, oh, maybe we should merge. Because I think the Taiwanese people do want to reunify with China, just not with the Chinese Communist Party. I think that's kind of a key difference there. It's not about unifying China. It's the fact that you've got a mafioso type regime in the form of the Chinese Communist Party that is owning, they're torturing and enslaving their own people. And I don't think the Taiwanese want anything to do with that. Not at least until the Chinese Communist Party falls and a representative republic that has guarantees of individual liberties is installed in Beijing. And realistically, what's the best way to achieve that? Well, to have Taiwan take over mainland China. But of course, that's near impossible. You're talking about 20 million people against 1.4 million people. And the 1.4 billion people in mainland China have been brainwashed for a really long time. Now, what does this have to do with the election here in the United States? Well, we've got Donald Trump in one corner, who is obviously very antagonistic with the Chinese Communist Party. And in the other corner, you have Mr. Joe Biden, the big man himself. And the big man, he is, let's just say, kind of in bed with the Chinese Communist Party, even though he tries to claim that he's tough on China. If you look at his history, you look at the video footage of him with Xi Jinping during the Obama administration time period, I can tell you right now, Joe Biden is definitely in bed with Communist China. So, why is this important? Well, frankly, I think it's obvious. You can probably guess my position here. I despise communism. I think communism is evil, and it is a form of slavery. And I believe we need to defeat communism. And I don't think we have a chance of defeating communism. Nay, I even think that if we elect Joe Biden, we could very well be ushering in communism in our own country. Do I think that's actually going to happen? I don't know. I really don't know. But what I do know is that for our existential well-being, we need to re-elect Donald Trump. And I say that with no irony, no falsity in my claim. I literally believe that right now the choice is between a man who has sold himself to every corrupt dictator around the country in the form of Joe Biden through his son Hunter Biden, and Donald Trump, who has actually lost billions. He's lost much of his fortune serving the people as president. And he is adamantly opposed to communism. I think it's a clear choice. If you haven't already voted, get out and vote. And if you have a sense of understanding of the Marxist threat that we face, please consider voting for Donald Trump. Consider voting for the Republicans. Thank you. I'm the colorblind architect. Peace out.